Airports. We think of them as, these controlled, secure zones most of the time.
Yeah, just places you pass through, points A to B, routine stuff.
But sometimes things happen there that are completely unexpected. Really unsettling, actually.
We've gathered a collection of personal stories, real accounts shared with us.
All about these strange, sometimes scary, sometimes just unexplained encounters in or around airports.
Exactly.
True stories.
And what we want to do in this deep dive is really unpack them, look at the details, figure out what makes them so unnerving.
And maybe pull out some insights or, cautionary reminders about staying aware, even in places that feel safe.
Right. Okay, let's start with one from summer 2007. This happened to someone who was just 10 years old at the time.
They were with their family, an 8-year-old sister, a 5-year-old sister too, waiting for a late-night flight.
Heading to Disneyland, actually. Sounds like the parents booked a late flight, hoping the kids might sleep through some of it.
But there they are, late at night in the terminal. And the key thing here is, the parents had just stepped away for a moment.
Yeah, Mom took the youngest, the 5-year-old, to the bathroom nearby. Dad went to grab a quick snack, also close by.
So the two older siblings, the 10-year-old narrator and the 8-year-old sister, were alone at the gate for just a few minutes.
And that's exactly when it started. A middle-aged woman came over, sat right down next to them,
Right.
and she was immediately super friendly, overly familiar, put her hand on the narrator's back, asked where their parents were, all really bubbly.
A bit much, maybe.
Yeah, the kids were a bit taken aback, just said their parents would be right back.
Man, what?
Then a middle-aged man joined her. Same vibe, really effusive, acting like they knew the family well. Old friends.
Okay, so two strangers acting way too familiar.
Right. And the man says he just saw their dad over at the cafe. He introduces herself and the woman as, get this, their dad's cousins.
Wow, okay. And the kids?
Well, they're young, maybe a little shy. They just politely say hello, it seems. Well, weird, but maybe innocent on the surface.
But it wasn't innocent.
No, this is where the strategy, the manipulation really kicks in. The man reaches out and takes the 8-year-old's hand, reaches for the 10-year-old narrator's hand, and they tell the kids, we want you to come meet our children.
Oh.
And the kids, they're young, they're trusting, maybe just confused. They don't sense immediate danger, so they take their hands and start walking with them.
But where are they going? Not towards another gate.
No, that's the scary part. They start leading them out of the secure gate area, past the cafe where the dad supposedly was.
Downstairs.
Downstairs, heading towards the main lobby, towards the airport entrance, the parking lot.
Okay, now even a 10-year-old has got to be thinking, this isn't right.
Absolutely. Alarm bells must have started ringing. They're being led towards the exit. The narrator finally asks, where exactly are we going?
And the answer.
The woman just looks back, gives this cheeky smile, and says their kids are outside by the car. As they kept walking, heading towards the darker parking lot area, the narrator said they felt really uncomfortable now. They managed to pull their hand away from the woman and tried to get their sister's hand free from the man, saying, we want to go back inside.
And how did the adults react to that?
That's when everything changed. Instantly. No more smiles.
The cheeky smiles vanished.
Completely. The man turned fast. The narrator described it as aggressively wrapping his arms around them. The woman did the same to the sister.
Oh my God.
They literally started carrying the kids, who were screaming now, closer to the parking lot. It went from deception straight to an abduction attempt.
Terrifying. What happened? How did they get away?
Pure luck, it sounds like. Just at that moment, they heard yelling in the distance.
Someone saw them.
2 men, airport security guards. The second the attackers heard that yelling, they just dropped the kids instantly and ran.
Just bolted.
Vanished into the parking lot chaos. Super fast.
Wow. And the security guards.
One tried to give chase, but the other stayed with the kids, calmed them down a bit, then led them back inside.
Back to their parents.
Yeah, they found their parents and the younger sister. It had only been a few minutes total since they left, but the mom was just sobbing like a baby, understandably.
Oh, I can only imagine. What really gets me about this is how calculated it was. Preying on kids' trust, exploiting that tiny window when the parents were gone.
Exactly. And the narrator even mentioned later, looking back, they felt uncomfortable but didn't recognize the huge red flags. These cousins never even gave their names.
It's just a stark reminder, isn't it? How quickly things can go wrong, how vulnerable you can be even in a busy place.
Absolutely. And it shows how predators can adapt their tactics. Airports have these moments of, transition, chaos maybe, tired travelers, kids briefly unattended. These are openings.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears. A completely different kind of strange encounter now.
This one happens on a stormy February night. The narrator is waiting alone,
Where are they going?
flying to North Carolina for a job interview the next day, and the terminal isn't very busy.
Okay, so late night, bad weather, few people around. Sets a bit of a mood.
Definitely. So the narrator's sitting there, lots of empty seats around, but this heavy-set man comes over and sits down just 2 seats away. Close.
Yeah, the narrator thought it was, like, a bit annoying at first, but then it got worse. It became downright disturbing.
Why? What was he doing?
He was just staring. Weirdly staring.
Oh, that feeling. Awful.
Right. You try to ignore it, look at your phone, whatever, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
And then he leans in.
No.
Yes, leans in close, uncomfortably close, and whispered close to my ear.
Okay, I'm bracing myself. What did he whisper?
He whispered that 2 other men, sitting in a row across the aisle from the narrator,
Yeah.
were going to be on the same flight. And they were planning to kidnap the narrator when the plane landed in North Carolina.
What? Just out of nowhere.
Completely. I imagine hearing that. The narrator just managed to say, what?
I mean, yeah. What else can you say? And instantly, the man who whispered it just got up and walked away. Disappeared.
Gone.
Just like that.
Gone.
And at that exact same moment, they called the narrator's flight for boarding.
Talk about whiplash. Bizarre warning. Guy vanishes. Got to get on the plane.
Exactly. So now you have to board this plane, possibly with the very people you were just warned about. The narrator described being incredibly nervous boarding.
I bet. Were they looking for the 2 men?
Yes, keeping an eye out. And as they walked past the row the whisperer had pointed out, there were 2 men sitting there. And they both stared me down as the narrator walked by to find their seat.
Okay, that stare. That makes the warning feel terrifyingly real.
Absolutely. It must have just cemented the fear, made them think, maybe this wasn't just some crazy person. Maybe it was true.
So, a very tense flight, I imagine.
Yeah.
What happened when they landed in North Carolina?
Super cautious. The narrator was very careful getting off the plane, heading out of the airport, constantly scanning, looking for those 2 men.
And did they see them?
They did, outside, in the dark, cold parking lot.
Oh no. Where?
They saw the 2 men peering their heads from around a red minivan.
Peering, like watching.
Exactly. And the really chilling part, when the men saw the narrator looking at them, they ducked down. They hid behind the van.
Okay, hiding is not normal behavior. That definitely suggests something was wrong.
It wasn't proof of a kidnapping plot, obviously, but it was more than enough for the narrator. They realized this was not just some coincidence.
So what do? Did they just run?
Smart move. They didn't try to deal with it alone out there. They turned around, went straight back inside the airport terminal.
Good thinking. Safety in numbers, public space.
Right. Waited inside for about half an hour, then called a taxi, took the taxi straight to their hotel.
Smart. Very smart. But the mystery.
That's what lingers, isn't it? As the narrator said, who was that man who warned them? How could he possibly know? And what were those other 2 guys actually planning? Or hoping for, waiting by that van?
It just shows these really strange, unexplainable things can happen. And trusting your gut, even if the warning sounds bizarre, it can be crucial. Going back inside, delaying, getting a taxi, that quick decision based on that weird warning, and then seeing the men hide, likely kept them safe.
Yeah, it's about assessing risk, even with weird information. Retreating was key.
Definitely.
Okay, here's another one. This takes us into, like, the hidden corners of an airport, places you're not supposed to be.
This is from a 26-year-old narrator. They were at JFK in New York with 5 friends.
Vacation time.
Yep, about to fly to Florida, beach trip. But before the flight, the narrator really needed to use the bathroom. And the main one near their gate had a massive line.
Always the way, isn't it?
So looking for another option, they spotted a janitor, asked if there was another less crowded bathroom nearby,
And the janitor.
hesitated a bit, said she shouldn't really be telling people, which is interesting in itself.
Red flag number 1, maybe.
Could be. But she gave directions anyway. Past a certain door, down a narrow flight of stairs, and then turned left.
Okay, sounds like heading into a service area or something.
Pretty much. The narrator followed the directions, found the door, described it as one no one would think to open.
So not marked restroom.
Definitely not. Behind it, a small, narrow stairway down, leading to a really poorly lit, skinny hallway.
How skinny.
The narrator emphasized it was so narrow, if 2 people were to pass by each other, one person would have to stand against the wall. really tight. Sounds like a forgotten access corridor.
Creepy.
And the bathroom.
Found it at the end of this hallway. Door was extremely heavy and hard to push. Inside, the lights were on, but it was filthy.
Yeah.
Clearly not maintained like a public restroom. Way off the map.
Okay, not ideal, but they needed to go.
Right. But the narrator mentioned having this habit, maybe just general caution, of checking surroundings. So after seeing the one stall inside was empty, they stepped back into the hallway for just a second, just to glance both ways before, committing.
Yeah.
And that's when they saw him. Somebody standing at the end of the hall in a dark, unlit section.
Oh, man. In a place like that, that's unnerving. Deeply unnerving. The narrator's immediate reaction, just pull their head back into the bathroom fast, pretend they didn't see anything.
Probably what I would do too, just get in the stall.
So they went into the stall, stood there, just dreading hearing that heavy bathroom door open.
And did it.
Of course it did. They heard it creak open.
Oh, God.
Saw the man's black shoes under the stall door, watched them walk over to the stall right next to theirs, heard the stall door shut.
Okay. Maybe he just needs to use the bathroom too.
That's what you'd hope. But then, silence.
Silence.
Complete silence. The narrator said, no sound of the man unzipping his fly or sitting down. Nothing. Just dead quiet from the next stall. They said they totally forgot they even needed the bathroom anymore.
I would too. That is intensely creepy.
And it gets worse. As the narrator was just about to unlock their own stall door to get out of there, they looked up.
Don't say it.
Saw the man's head peering over the stall looking at me.
No, buddy.
Pure terror. Nearly had a heart attack, they said. Screamed loudly. Said the screams just echoed in that tiny bathroom.
I don't blame them. What do they do?
Instant flight mode. Bolted out of the stall, ran back up those narrow stairs, burst through the door back into the main terminal area.
Back to safety, hopefully.
Yeah, and then tried to act cool. Walked casually back to their friends even though they were breathing super heavily.
Did they tell their friends what happened?
No. They admitted they didn't tell anyone right then, said they were too embarrassed.
Embarrassed after that.
Shock and fear make you react weirdly sometimes, I guess. They said it was a great vacation otherwise, but the thought of that creepy man haunted them every night that week. Looking back, they said not telling anyone seems stupid now.
Yeah, maybe. But wow, that really highlights the risk of going into those non-public hidden areas, even if a staff member points you there.
Exactly. It's that paradox of big places like airports. You have the bright, busy public zones, but then you have all these other areas, maintenance corridors, service tunnels, forgotten corners.
Places you're not supposed to be.
Right. And if you end up in one accidentally or even directed there, you're outside that main safety net. You just don't know who or what might be down there.
Okay, our last story for today. This one. This one actually follows someone home from the airport. It's incredibly invasive.
Yeah, this is intense. The narrator picked up his wife, Michelle, and 4 of her friends from the airport. She'd been on a trip to California. Flight was a bit late.
Okay, standard airport pickup.
But right after they greet each other, Michelle realizes something's wrong. She's lost her wallet and her keys.
Oh no. At the airport or on the plane.
That's what they needed to figure out. So the narrator, Michelle, and one of her friends went straight back into the terminal. Searched everywhere, checked the gates, the walkways, even got an airport worker involved to check the actual plane again.
Any luck?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The worker said they'd call if anything turned up. You know the drill.
Right. So they had to leave without them. Michelle must have been pretty upset.
Yeah, the narrator said she was in a sour mood the whole drive home. Understandable.
So they get home.
They get home. Michelle heads upstairs to their bedroom to drop off her big travel bag. The narrator is still downstairs, maybe in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then he hears it, a scream from upstairs. Michelle's scream.
Oh, God. He
runs straight upstairs to their bedroom, finds Michelle just pointing at the bathroom door inside their bedroom.
Pointing at the bathroom. Why?
He looks around the room first. Instantly sees something's wrong. The 2 closet doors across the room are wide open.
Okay.
And stuff is thrown everywhere. Personal belongings, papers scattered all over the floor, a complete mess.
Someone's been in the room.
Definitely. And Michelle manages to stutter out, "There's someone in the bathroom."
Inside their bedroom bathroom.
Oh.
Locked in.
Locked in. Imagine that feeling. Your heart just stops. The narrator said he tried to be strong, went to the bathroom doorknob. Locked from the inside. Michelle just quickly backed out of the bedroom, went downstairs to call the police. Smart move.
Well, he snuck there with someone locked in the bathroom. What did he do?
He knew he couldn't just wait. He started ramming the door with his shoulder, described it as a week-old door.
Did it work?
Took 5 solid hits, he said. But yeah, he busted the door down.
And the person was inside?
No, the bathroom was empty.
Empty.
But the bathroom window was jammed completely open, wide enough for someone to squeeze through.
So they got in that way and escaped that way.
That seems to be the only explanation. They got out while he was trying to break down the door.
But how did Michelle know someone was in there? Did she see them?
That's the truly terrifying part, she told the police. She had just walked into the room, thrown her bag on the bed, hadn't even noticed the mess from the closets yet.
Yeah.
And she felt something brush past her, like someone moving quickly behind her.
Whoa.
She turned around and saw a massively tall man walking directly into the bathroom.
She saw him walk in.
Yes, and the detail that chilled everyone. He was staring at her the whole time with wide eyes and a blank expression as he walked past her and into the bathroom.
Staring at her. Blank expression. Oh my God.
She said she was just frozen, couldn't even scream until after she heard the bathroom door lock click shut behind him.
I can't even imagine that level of fear. Frozen solid.
So, putting it all together, the lost keys and wallet at the airport.
Someone found them.
Yeah.
Saw the address on her ID in the wallet.
Exactly. Likely found the keys and wallet there, got the address, followed them home from the airport.
Waited until they went inside.
Or maybe got there first, climbed in through that bathroom window while the house was empty, was already inside the house, maybe hiding in the closets when Michelle and the narrator got back.
And Michelle walked in on him. He retreated to the bathroom, locked himself in.
And then escaped out the window again when the narrator started breaking down the door.
That is absolutely horrifying. The violation,
Yeah.
following you home, being in your house.
Deeply unsettling. They changed all the locks the next day, of course. Never saw the man again, thankfully.
But still, it just shows how something seemingly small, like losing your wallet at the airport,
Can have these terrifying ripple effects, reaching right into your most private space, your home.
So when we look at all these stories together, what are the main takeaways here? What connects them?
Well, they really shine a light on vulnerabilities that exist even in places we think are super secure or regulated, like airports.
And how problems from those places can spill over into our private lives, like that last story.
Definitely. There's also that common theme of the unexpected, right? You're just doing something totally normal, waiting for a plane, needing the bathroom.
Suddenly you're in this bizarre or even dangerous situation.
Yeah. And that feeling of potential isolation, too. Even if you're in a crowd at an airport, you're often sort of alone. A transient person nobody knows, which can increase vulnerability.
It really does seem to come back to paying attention, doesn't it? Noticing those odd details, listening to that gut feeling when something feels off.
Absolutely. Even if it seems strange or illogical at the time, think about the little girl feeling uncomfortable with the cousins.
Or the narrator seeing the man staring, or feeling watched in that hidden hallway. Those feelings meant something.
These accounts, they're pretty stark reminders, I think, that just general awareness is a really important layer of personal safety.
Assuming everyone in a public space is harmless, probably not the safest assumption.
Right. Not everyone has good intentions. And sometimes thinking quickly based on one of those unsettling feelings.
Like the person calling a taxi instead of walking out into the dark parking lot.
Or the security guards intervening just in time in the first story. That quick thinking or timely intervention can make all the difference. It can literally change the outcome.
It really makes you reconsider these everyday spaces. So, maybe a final thought for you listening. How do these stories change the way you think about places like airports?
Yeah, what unsettling things might actually be possible just out of sight, or maybe even hidden in plain sight? In those places we usually just assume are safe because they're public.
Something to think about, for sure.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into these particular accounts.
Thank you so much for joining us as we explored these stories today.
Until next time.